All right, today I'm going to be replacing brake pads on the Yamaha Grizzly 700. I've got the front wheel off already. Just takes 4 17mm lug nuts there. They're an acorn shaped nut here, so you want to make sure that you gently tighten them up to start. Get them all snug, all 4 snug, and then go ahead and torque them down in a crisscross pattern there. After we got the wheel pulled off, we're going to go ahead and pull 2 12mm bolts here to hold our caliper on. Just takes a 12mm. You can use a wrench, you can use a socket, you can use a ratchet and socket, or you can use an impact driver like this. I like to use this, and then I take and I put a swivel on here, so you can actually take and pull it off with an impact driver. Got the top one, and then our bottom one is off there. Now what you can do is take your caliper, and you've got it off right here. The second thing we're going to do is actually go up to the handlebars there, and we're gonna open that cap on our master cylinder there. Just because we're going to actually take and push these pads and push this piston back out, so some of that fluid is going to come up in there. We don't want, if that cap up there or that reservoir up there has been overfilled, if we take and push this piston back in there, we don't want to break any seals by putting too much pressure going up that line. So after we've popped our cap loose up top there, take a screwdriver, and because these are the old pads there, we can actually take and open these up. And the reason why we're going to want to open these up at this point is because we're going to take the new pads, slide them over top of our disc. They will, and you can see our old pads there don't have a whole lot of pad left, and so we won't be able to get it over the disc if we don't spread these apart a little bit. Once you push it back, I'd say 1/4 inch or so, you can take a Allen. Take a 5mm Allen there, and you can see that there's a pin running across this caliper on the top here. There's actually a cap that's got to come off first. Take and loosen that up and pull that cap off of there. It's about 3/8 of an inch, maybe even 1/4 inch. It's not very big there. That's the cap. Then you can take and actually remove that post that goes all the way through there. That takes an Allen as well. Loosen that up. If you can't get it off that way, you can actually install these bolts back on install the caliper back onto the hub and loosen it up that way. But most of the time you can get it pulled out just like this. All right, we've got the first pad out, and then we've got our second one here. Now let's take and make sure there's no dirt and debris down in there. Now you can take the new pads here. We're using an EPI pad, and it looks like this. You can see the difference there between the pads, a whole lot thicker here, and then on the other side, there's the difference there. So certainly needed the pads. Go ahead and slip our back ones on there first. It's going to sit in behind this bracket here. And down in that groove there. And we can take our other pad there and push it in there. Now we can take our pin, run it all the way through. Don't forget when you're going back together, don't forget this. It's kind of a spring plate here. You want to make sure that that's in place, and you probably will have to push your pads in farther just because of that spring-loaded plate there. Go ahead and tighten that up then. And again, if you need to slip it on the actual hub to tighten these up, or even wait and tighten these up until after you get it back on the hub, that is just fine to do. But you just want to make sure that you don't forget to snug them up, and don't forget to put this little cap on here. All right, once you have the pads in there and your pin tightened up and then the cap tightened up, you can take and slip it over top of your hub there. You want to be really careful going back on now that we don't jar this too much, because we do still have our cap off up top there. Okay, and then once we get those bolts in there, we can take and tighten those up. And those are tightened up. Now all we need to do is put our wheel back on. You want to check the level of our hydraulic brake fluid up at the handlebars. We can put our cap on top there, and you want to make sure and hit those brakes a couple times, make sure they're working properly. If you do need to bleed them, I've done several other videos on that, but you take this cap up here, you make sure and squeeze on the handle. You can break this cap free. Before you let off on the handle up there, make sure you snug this cap back up. Then you can let off the handle up there, pump it a couple more times. A lot of times, if there is air in those lines, those bubbles will raise. They'll go up through the master cylinder there, and pump it a handful of times, put pressure on it, break this bleeder free. Fluid should come out. Tighten this back up, and then let go of your lever, pump it a couple times, and so on and so forth. That's if you're not having to bleed your entire brake system. If you do need to bleed your entire brake system, it's a little more complicated than that. I like to use a vacuum, a brake bleeder vacuum, and that just kind of pulls that fluid through and pushes that air out. So that's kind of the process of bleeding those brakes there. If you've got more questions on those, check my videos out. If this video has been helpful, make sure you like and subscribe. If you want more service videos on the Grizzly 700, make sure you check out my channel. I've got dozens of other videos on this particular model. Thanks for watching.